Before we get started on today's lesson, I want you to do a real quick review here. So grab some scratch paper. I don't care where you put it, but I want you to draw a sketch of the graph of y equals 2x minus 3. You can use a method of your choice. So we've done it with finding the slope and the y-intercept. We've made a table. We found the x and the y-intercepts. So pause the video, go ahead and graph that, and then we'll go through that together. Then we'll talk about what we're going to do today. So I'm going to use the slope and the y-intercept, right? So we know that y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. And it's already in that form. So 2 is my slope, right? That's m. And then the minus 3 is my y-intercept, that's b. So I always start with the y-intercept. I know it crosses the y-axis. Make sure it's on the y-axis at 3. The slope is 2. I'm going to think as a slope as a fraction, make it into a ratio. So I'm going to think it's being 2 over 1. Okay, positive slope means I'm going up from left to right. So I'm going to go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and do as many points as you need. Hey, if you wanted to, we could also go down 2 and left 1, as long as from left to right, the graph's going up. That was a really bad graph. You guys have to excuse my handwriting. I'm doing this on a tablet. It's a little harder to draw, but okay. So that's a really badly drawn line, right? But this crosses the y-axis at -3, y-intercept, slope is a positive 2 or 2 over 1. Okay, what we're going to work on is just go in the opposite direction. So if I'm giving information, whether it be a graph or some other information, I can find the equation of the line. So when we do that, this is like the process we're going to go through. We're always going to start out and think to ourselves, can I find the slope of the line? So we know how to do that. So let's find the slope of the line. Pick a couple points. I'm going to go from that point to that point. We want to find the slope of the line. So it goes up 2, and it goes to the right 3. Okay, so the slope is 2 over 3. And we know it's positive, right? It's going up from left to right. Okay, what's the y-intercept? We can tell what that is too, right? It's that point right there. It crosses the y-axis at a positive 3. Okay, if we have those two pieces of information, it is easy to find the equation of the line. I'm just working backwards. I know this slope-intercept formula, the y equals mx plus b. I'm just going to plug in the slope and the y-intercept. Let's see, the slope is 2/3. So y equals 2/3. And the y-intercept is a positive 3. Okay, there's the equation of the line. So in most cases, you know, our first option, what we really want to do is use that y equals mx plus b. It's the easiest formula to use and to plug in. There are times when we don't know the y-intercept. And if we don't know the y-intercept, then we're going to use the second formula. So go ahead and make these notes. This formula we know is called slope-intercept. Okay, and we know that m right there gives me the slope. We know that b is the y-intercept. Okay, this other formula right here is a different formula. This is when you don't know the y-intercept, because sometimes it isn't given to you or you can't find it from the graph. So we call this is called point slope. So go ahead and write that name down in your notes there, point slope. The point is x1, y1. So the x1 and the y1 represent any point on the graph. So you see the x1 there and the y1 there, those two things. Okay, right underneath here, that's any point on the graph. And then m, we know what that is. M is the slope. So if you come to a problem where you cannot find the y-intercept, or you don't know what the y-intercept is, it isn't given to you, there's not enough information to find it, instead of using this formula over here, we're going to use this formula over here. So you want to put a little star by this one down here, and let's add this to your notes. We use this one when you can't find the intercept, with the y-intercept. We use this one when we don't know the y-intercept. Okay, that's when we use that second formula. Okay, so let's get this problem right here. It says, what is the slope of the line? So we can find that. Let's see, I'm going to use that point and that point. It goes, first of all, it's going down, so it's going to be negative, right? It goes down 1, -1, and it goes over 1, 2, 3. So the slope is negative 1 over 3, which is really the same thing as negative 1/3. Hey, the y-intercept. The y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. This is where we run into a problem with this one. I don't know that we can really tell where it crosses. You can make a guess. Like we could guess where it crosses, but it doesn't tell us, and we don't want to guess. So in this case, I'm going to put, what's the y-intercept? I don't know. Like there's no way to figure it out. So now let's find the equation of the line. I cannot use the y equals mx plus b because I don't know what the y-intercept is. So instead, write down this formula. We're going to use point slope. This is the one you use when you don't know the y-intercept. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, so I need a point on the line. Well, if you look up here, I have lots of points on the line. I just need to choose one. And you can choose any one you want. It won't matter. You'll get the same thing. I'm going to use this point right here. That point is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, negative 1. So that's going to be my point. So I'm going to come over here. The point I'm going to use is going to be 5, negative 1. And I need the slope. Well, I found the slope. The slope was a negative 1/3. Okay, let's plug those two things in. Hey, up here, by the 5, negative 1, put an x1 below the 5, and put a y1 below the negative 1. Those are your x and your y coordinates, okay? So I come over here. I'm going to go y minus my y coordinate, which is negative 1. So y minus negative 1 equals m, the slope, times x minus the x coordinate, which is 5. Okay, that is the equation of the line, but we're not going to leave it in that form. We're going to do a little bit of simplifying. So I'm going to add 1, or change, sorry, the minus negative changes to plus 1. So I have y plus 1 equals, I'm going to times through by that negative 1/3. Distribute it through. It would be negative 1/3 times x. Negative 1/3 times the negative 5 would change to a positive. When you times those together, it ends up being, think of that as being 5 over 1. So times 1 times 5 and 3 times 1 ends up being 5/3. Okay, now I just need to minus the 1 over. So my equation ends up being y equals negative 1/3 x. Then I have to go 5/3 minus 1. You can use a calculator for that if you want to. It ends up being 5/3 minus 3/3, which is a positive 2/3. So it ends up being y equals negative 1/3 x plus 2/3 x. And that looks reasonable. Right, 2/3 would be your y-intercept. It looks where it crosses. So it can get a little bit trickier. If you don't know the y-intercept, then we're going to use that second formula. That doesn't mean you'll always end up with fractions. A lot of times you won't, but sometimes you may. Now let's do this one right here. What's the slope of this line? We talked about this the other day. The slope of that line, if we go from that point to that point, the rise is 0. So it's 0 over, and the run is 2. I go up 0 and over 2. So the slope is 0. What's the y-intercept? It crosses right there at 3. So y-intercept is 3. Hey, on this one, I know the y-intercept, so we can use our simple formula, y equals mx plus b. If I plug in y equals 0x for the slope plus 3. Well, 0x is 0, so I end up with the equation y equals 3. So when you go to graph a line, if it's a horizontal line, it actually always ends up, because the slope is always 0, talked about that a couple lessons ago, you always end up with a 0x. So it really just ends up being y equals wherever it crosses the y-axis. So y equals 3. If I were to move that around, like I can move that line, I put it right there. I'll try to make it match up. If I put it right there, that'd just be y equals 5. Or if I put it down here, it'd be y equals negative 1. So horizontal lines are actually pretty easy to find. It's always just going to be y equals whatever the y-intercept is. Here's your other special case. Let's say it's a vertical line. What's the slope of that line? And if you remember, if I pick a couple of points, it doesn't matter where the points are. Oops, sorry about that, Mark. But if I pick a couple of points, the rise is 3, goes up 3, it goes over 0. That means it's undefined. If you have undefined slope, first of all, there is no y-intercept, right? It never crosses the y-axis. If you have undefined slope, it's a special case. Instead of being y equals a number, it's just x equals a number. And it always is just x equals wherever it crosses the x-axis. So where does it cross the x-axis at? That's when x is -2. So that's your equation right there. So make sure you have that in your notes. If it's a horizontal line, it's always y equals the y-intercept. If it's a vertical line, it's always x equals the x-intercept. Those are a couple special cases. We're going to skip past that one. Okay, let's go to this one right here. This is in your notes there. It says, write the slope-intercept form of the line that passes through the given point and has the given slope. Let me just downsize this just a little bit. Okay, so here's a choice. When you're asked to write the equation of the line, you have two choices. Right? I've got the y equals mx plus b, or I've got the point slope, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Those are the two formulas you have to choose from. So the way you're going to know which one to use is to ask yourself, do I know the y-intercept? If you know the y-intercept, use this one. This is the easiest one if I know the y-intercept. If you don't, we've got to use this one over here. So it tells me it passes through the point 3, -2. 3, -2 is not on the y-axis. That is not the y-intercept. So it gives me a point, and it gives me the slope. That means I'm using this formula over here. So let's go ahead and do that. Above here, put x1. That's your x-coordinate. Above the -2, put y1. That's your y-coordinate. And then write this as m over here. Those are the three things I'm going to plug in my formula. So I go y minus my y-coordinate, which is -2, equals my slope, -1/3, times x minus my x-coordinate, which is 3. Okay, that's my formula. Now we're always going to put it in the y equals mx plus b form for the final answer. So the minus and negative changes to plus. So I have y plus 2. I'm going to times through by that -1/3. So it'd be -1/3 x, and -1/3 times a -3. The two negatives make it a positive. Hey, when you go 1/3 times 3, just make it 3 over 1. So 1 times 3 and 3 times 1 ends up being 3 over 3, which is just 1. Okay, finish getting y by itself, so minus the 2 over, and minus the 2 over. So my final equation, the final thing is, the answer is y equals 1 -1/3 x minus 1. Okay. That's the answer that we're looking for. That is the equation of the line. So again, if you don't know the y, this is the easiest formula here, but it only works if I know the y-intercept. If you don't know it, which is going to be the case on most of your problems, we're going to mainly be using this formula over here. I plug in my x-coordinate, my y-coordinate, my point, and my slope. Then I just have to work it out to get it in the y equals form. Let's try this one. So it says, write the slope-intercept form of the equation with a given point with a given slope. This time it tells me it passes through. Let me actually see what this next example is. I may want to skip that one. Let's do this one right here. So we're going to find, again, the slope-intercept form of the equation that passes through the point -2, 4, and has a slope of 1. Okay, so you can choose your formula. This is not the y equals mx plus b because I don't know what the y-intercept is. So instead, I'm going to use this formula. So write this down. I know I'm using the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay. This, the point, this is my x1. This is my y1. And then this is the slope over here. Okay, let's plug it in there. So I go y minus my y-coordinate, which is 4, equals 1 times x minus my x-coordinate, which is -2. All right, so I end up with y minus 4 equals 1 to distribute, that minus and negative is going to change to a plus right there. Be careful with signs. Distribute that 1 through. So it'd be 1x or x. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, all I have to do is add the 4 over now. So add 4 over to this side. Y equals x plus 6. Okay, there's the equation of the line. So that's mainly what you're going to focus on today, right? If you know the y-intercept, you're going to use the y equals mx plus b. If you don't, then you're going to use this point slope formula. And then afterwards, you just have to work it out. You want your final answer to be in that y equals mx plus b. So if you do use this formula, there'll be a little bit of work to do to put it in the right form by the time you write your answer. I want you guys to try one real fast before we end here. So here is another example. Go to the previous example that we skipped over, this one right here. This one's a little tricky because you have a fraction, but we can do it. Make sure if you need a calculator, grab a calculator. But I want you to work through this one, find the equation of the line. And then, so pause it while you're doing that. And then once you've worked through it, we'll turn it back on and we'll go through it together. Okay, so this is not the y-intercept, that's the x-intercept, which doesn't help us. So we're going to use, so that's my x1, that's my y1. So we're going to use this, our point slope formula, y minus y1 equals my slope m times x minus x1. Okay, so plug our numbers in. I'm going to go y minus my y coordinate, which is 0, equals my slope, which is negative 2/3, times x minus my x coordinate, which is negative 3. Okay, we could change this minus a negative. We could change to a plus. The y minus 0 is really just y. So I get y equals negative 2/3 times x plus 3. I just need to times through by that negative 2/3, and I got my answer. So I'm going to end up with y is equal to negative 2/3 x. Then I have to go negative 2/3 times 3. Again, feel free to use a calculator, but if you're not going to use a calculator, you can go negative 2/3 times, make it 3/1. So it ends up being negative 6/3, which you divide to get a negative 2. Okay, and there's the equation of the line. So most of the problems, if they give you the y-intercept, if they tell you what the y-intercept is, you're just going to plug it into y equals mx plus b. If they don't tell you the y-intercept, you're going to plug it in this equation. One thing I want you to be careful with is there is going to be a problem on the assignment. In fact, if you want to pass the assignment out, and we'll look at a problem together, this is one of the problems from your assignment. So if you want to pause the video and pass that out, and then you'll find this one. It is number 9. And we'll run through it together real fast. So number 9 gives you this point, and it gives you the slope. This actually isn't even the one I wanted. I'm sorry. Well, let's actually look at number 8. Sorry about that. So in this case, it wants you to find the equation of the line. It gives you the slope, so we know what m is. But then it gives you the y-intercept. That's b. If they do that, we don't have to use that point slope formula. That's a lot more complicated. We're just going to do the y equals mx plus b. That's it. So I'm going to go y equals, plug your slope in, negative 1/2 x, and b is a positive 3, so plus 3. So don't make it harder than it is. If it does give you the y-intercept, you're just going to use your slope-intercept formula right there, which is really simple. If it doesn't give you the y-intercept, that's when you need to use. That's when you're going to use the other one. So this one, let's see. Let me just clear this. So if it doesn't give you, like on this one, right, it gives us a 0.4, negative 4, and the slope of negative 2. This one I cannot use the y equals mx plus b because I don't know what b is. So this one I would use the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, hopefully that's helpful to you. Make sure you work together, help each other, and good luck.